fifth graders, we're on to our next math lesson. This is the lesson for Wednesday. It is lesson 107. This is a bit of a jump from the one we did yesterday, so yes, it is true, we're moving clear down to 107 because that is the next lesson that has something with fractions in it, okay? This one's a little bit different, but it's a continuation of fractions we've used before. So lesson 107 is on page 703, okay? 703. Can you believe we're already into the 700s in our book? Wow. All right, the title of this lesson that says what we're going to be doing here is using percent to name part of a group. That's a really complicated sounding title, but it's something that is actually, you're going to find is pretty, not too hard, okay? Once you wrap your brain around it, you say, this isn't so bad, okay? The big thing that you need to remember is if you look at page 704, there's a little box up in the left-hand corner that says reading math. Important information in that box. A denominator of 100 is used to write a percent as a fraction. Okay? So this is something, we've done this before, but it's, it's been a little while, so I don't know if you're remembering it. So if we have 50%, if we want to write 50% as a fraction, we write 50 over 100. Those of you who are Spanish speakers, remember we talked about por ciento, 50%. It's like for every 100, por cien. And so 50 out of 100 is 50%. Okay, if we have 25%, we would write that as 25 over 100. Okay, so that's the really important thing to make sure you remember that. If you remember that, you'll get this lesson just fine. Okay? Now, what they're doing for this lesson is giving us some examples that are written out kind of as word problems to be able to talk about a percentage. Look at example 1 that's on page 704. Okay? Example 1 says, if 8 of the 20 students are boys, what percent of the students are boys? Okay, so 8 out of 20. Remember, that's how we write it. This is how many kids there are total, 20 of them, and 8 of them are boys. Well, they asked us to write that as a percent, and that's actually something we do a bit in real life when we wanted to say that 40% of the class, boys, let me start that again, 40% of the kids in the class are boys, or 70% of the kids in the class have cats as pets. We kind of get the picture really well when we give a percent. So we see this used a lot in real life. Now, 8 over 20 doesn't tell us what percent it is, does it? Because a percent isn't 20 on the bottom. What has to be the denominator when we're talking about percentage? It's 100, right? So we need to write this as a fraction that has a 100 on the bottom. Here's how you do it. Ask yourself, what would I need to do to this 20 to make it be 100? I'm going to have to multiply it by something. What would I have to multiply 20 by to make it be 100? Do you remember? It's going to be a times 5. And you remember, I've told you this many, many times, on a fraction, what you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. Or what you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom. And we'll keep the ratio the same. So we're going to put a 5 times 20 down here because 20 times 5 is 100. I'm going to do the same to the top. 8 times 5, what's 8 times 5? 40, right? So, woohoo, look at that. That equals 40% because it was 40 over 100. Does that make sense? Did we do it right? Oh, we did, 40%. I should check those ahead of time, make sure I'm doing it right, shouldn't I? Does that make sense how we did this? Now, example 2 has us do the opposite because it says there were 400 beads in all. If 60 beads were red, what percent of the beads were red? So it's 60 out of 400, okay? 60 out of 400 beads were red beads. Well, once again, I need to turn this into a fraction. that has 100 as the a denominator. So I can't multiply something by 400 to get 100. I'm going to have to divide. So what would I divide 400 by to get 100? Hopefully you said 4, okay? 400 divided by 4 equals 100. So let's do 60 divided by 4 on the top because we got to do the same thing to the top. 400 divided by 4 is 100. 60 divided by 4 is how much? What's 60 divided by 4? If you can't think of it, it's divide it in half and then in half again. Okay, 60 divided by 4 is 15. So 15 over 100, which is 15%. Does that make sense to you? Your goal with finding percentages is you've got to turn whatever fraction you have into a fraction with 100 as the denominator, okay? There is one last example. I'm going to erase this so that we have space. I love this nifty eraser. It's magnetic. It just stays here wherever I put it. Isn't that the greatest thing? I love it, love it. Okay, example 3. It's on page 107. It says the team won 2/3 of its games. Find the percent of games the team won. It won 2/3. Well, I can't, I'm thinking about this. If I wanted to say, well, how can I get this over 100 to know what the percentage is? 3 is never going to go evenly into 100, is it? It always is going to be, because it's odd, it's going to be 99 is the closest, okay? So 99 or 102, so it's not going to work. So they show us a slightly different way to come to this answer when they give us this fraction to start with. We multiply 2/3 by 100% because, do you remember 2/3 of 100%? 2/3 of 100%. Well, of means times. So 2/3 times 100% would be, let me see, I had this figured out before. 2/3 times 100% is 200% divided by 3. Hold on, I have to think about this for a minute. I hate this one. I had it straight in my brain before I sat down here to tell it to you, and now I'm getting confused. We multiply the 2/3 by 100%. So, yes, here it is. Sorry. I just had to think on that a minute. 100 over 1, okay? So that was, we were multiplying it, so we have, that's a times, sorry, 200 over 3, okay? Now once I have that, I am going to divide my top number by the bottom. I'm going to divide my 200 by 3. 3 goes into 2, doesn't do it, so 3 goes into 20. 6 times 3 is 18. I have subtraction problem, I have a 2 left over. I'm going to bring down my 0. 3 goes into 20. 6 times 3 is 18. Do you see a pattern here? Okay, and I'm going to stop there because that's where my decimal would be if there was a decimal, and I'm going to put the rest. It's 66, and I'm going to write this as a fraction. The remainder 2 over 3, so 66 and 2/3, and it's percent because that's what we're talking about. So 2/3 of 100% is 66 and 2/3%. If you do this on the calculator, that's the easy way to do it. If you divide 2 divided by 3 and then multiply by your 100, it will give you 66.66666, and it would go on for 6's forever, but it'll round it off with a 7, which is 66 and 2/3. Okay, that's how you do it the long way. That one's a little more confusing, I know, because even I had to stop and think on that one. But most of the problems you're doing here are like the other ones that we did, okay? Where you're like the number of boys or the number of beads or things like that. So you're going to be doing the lesson practice. It's page 705. Actually, it's pages 705 and 706. And you are going to do all of it. So it is A through G. Whoops, G, there we go. And then you are doing the lesson 107 worksheet. Okay, the lesson 107 worksheet. And on these, if you take a look at the worksheet first here, it gives you 5 problems on here. And the first 2 of them, they're going to start you off doing the multiplication. If 18 of the 30 yearbook members are teenagers, what percentage is that? Okay, and they have you 18 over 30 times 100%, okay? They show you exactly how to start that. And then it just keeps going, finding percentages. This is probably one of your trickier lessons you're going to be doing, probably the trickiest one for this week. But I think you can do it fine. But remember, if you have any questions, give me a call. Your parents probably can do this, although this one might be tricky for them too. So if you need to, give me a call or email me or text me or message me one way or another and let me know if you have any questions on it, okay? You don't have too many problems because they're ones that take a little more brain power. So you have 5 on the worksheet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 in the book. So 12 problems, that's not much at all. So you can do it. Put that brain power toward it, okay? Thanks, guys. Let me know if you have questions. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.